Welcome to the Healthy Human Revolution channel. Here you're going to find all the resources you need to live a healthy and abundant life. Everything from recipes to interviews with experts. So hit the subscribe button and enjoy the channel. All right, so welcome to the live Q&A with Pierre, our friend and expert in fitness and nutrition. So how are you doing today?
Very good. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being part of this. And we're super excited. And just again, another reminder that we will be giving a live or a free 1 hour consultation with JP at the end. So make sure you hang out till the end. And this is really exciting. We get to talk to Teresa Passy as well. So JP, let's start with you. We're going to get to the questions, and as we get learn a little bit more about you, and then we already have several questions. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about where would you like us all to be? Like, what is the future that you see for the human and the population of this earth?
I think the most important thing is that we learn to become loving and kind, and we learn to extend compassion to everyone, and that includes ourselves. I think that's the one thing that we are missing the most. We have so much anger and violence and negativity in our world today, and it's very easy when you're surrounding yourself with that 24/7, from the media, from what you read, to people that you interact with, that starts to permeate into your being, and it starts to morph into who you are then. So it changes a once positive, happy being into this negative, dark energy. And so I think the most important thing that we can do is just work every day to be as loving and kind and compassionate as we can be, and take actions every day to make sure we bring that energy into our life and we keep the negativity out. That alone will solve almost all the problems right there.
That's incredible. And I love your mantra and your I don't know, your attitude, because it's very contagious and everyone feels the need to be better humans whenever they're around you. I know me and my family do. um, so, so let's just keep going here and tell us a little bit about when you work with someone, what are some of the needs and the problems? And I mean, you have a really wide experience. Like, there is so many different types of people that you've worked with. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the more common elements that you're seeing?
Yeah, so I'm from Chicago, and so my business partner in Chicago is a therapist, and so it'd be very interesting. A typical day could be I could be at the office seeing a military or FBI, U.S. Marshal, somebody very high speed client in the morning, and other clients, and then all of a sudden in the afternoon, then I go to do what my background really is in geriatrics. So I'd be presenting on enhancing cognitive functioning, or working with Parkinson's support group, or doing a class on fall prevention, and then see some other clients. And then the early evening, I'd see a client who has Down syndrome. So I'd see a wide variety of clients all the time. And although they all, within reason, as you know, as a physician, physiologically, they have a heart and lungs and spleen and liver. But as you know, in nutrition, we have this term biochemical individuality. So they all have different nutritional needs, which is one that could take weeks to work with somebody on that. But then they all have different physical needs. Somebody has an injury. Somebody was born with the muscle insertion different than somebody else. Then they have their own emotional and psychological needs. So many people have experienced trauma, and whether it's micro trauma or severe trauma, either way, it's trauma. And that in itself is a whole new area that most people don't even deal with. So, I just came back from a 2-day workshop for therapists on trauma. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, who wrote the book, The Body Keeps the Score, which is really dealing with trauma. And so when you work with clients, you have to be, if you want to help them the most, you have to reach all these different areas. You just can't just reach one, unless the client wants to go to a nutritionist or a dietitian, then a fitness person, and then a therapist, etc. And so my approach is just trying to reach as many of those areas as I can when I work with clients.
That is fabulous. So you're talking everything from elderly to elite athletes to Fortune 500 executives to physicians, movie stars, celebrities. That's alone is countless. Amazing. So can you tell us a little bit about Pierre? So how is the Pierre that was born turn into the John Pierre we see today? Is what were those factors, those things that happened in your life that really shaped your vision and your mission and just how you see the world?
Sure. So, one of the things is in high school, the two oral reports that I did senior year were women's rights and animal rights. So basically high school, I don't know, 17 years of age, I was already interested in animals and protecting the environment. And then I was already interested in helping women stay safe and be empowered. And actually my second book that I wrote with my assistant, Marina, Strong, Savvy, Safe, this book started in 1983 when I was in high school. So this is when it started. So I've been doing this type of work that long. And then my first book, The Pillars of Health, that I did with Marina also, this is basically on love and compassion and animals and the environment. And then this book is on self-protection and empowerment. So when you combine both of these energies together, you get a really nice blend of balance. If you're just compassionate and loving, and you're not really street savvy, that's an imbalance. If you're just street savvy and you're not compassionate and loving, that's an imbalance. So I think from a young age that I understood that we just can't have just single-minded focus on one thing. You have to look at everything from a holistic standpoint.
Exactly. I love that. So when you're working with someone and you have this background, are there specific things that you want them to bring into the conversation? Like, is there certain specific questions that you always ask everybody?
Not really, because everybody who I work with is unique and an individual, like I said, not only physically, but emotionally and spiritually. But I do like to take a look at, obviously, somewhat of a food diary. I like to see what they're eating. But just as importantly, before a food diary, I like to see what they do in the course of the day. What is a typical day like for them? When do they get up? What do they do? What are they doing throughout the day? What are they doing before they go to bed? What time are they going to bed? Do they go to sleep? Is it very bright? Who do they live with? What type of influences are they around? What do they see? I like to know what's going on in their life. And then I like to know, not like Sigmund Freud, but I like to know a little bit about their childhood and their past, because I do believe that so many people have trauma that is unacknowledged or undiagnosed, because some people see others with what they call more severe trauma, and they don't acknowledge what they had happened to them as trauma. So they're not acknowledging it. And that's a big mistake, because all trauma is trauma if it's trauma to you. And so I like to look at all those things.
Absolutely. So this is a very individual thing. So you don't just slap on a regular program with everyone. You look at everybody that's an individual in a holistic sense, and you like to really dive deep and work with someone in all elements of their life.
Absolutely, yes. I love doing seminars, and I've been doing seminars for, I think, Vegetarian Summerfest I've done for almost, I think this year would be maybe 27 or 28 years. In which is fun because you can reach a wide variety of people. I love when there's 2,000 or 3,000 people and an audience if I can reach that many. But working one-on-one, I can really fine-tune where they're at and where they need to go. And I really like working with more impoverished people and communities. I don't necessarily like working just with military and law enforcement or athletes. To be honest, that's probably the least a group of people that I'm inspired to work with. I'd rather work with people who have self-esteem issues or have had, cardiovascular problems or diabetes or especially obesity, because there's nothing more rewarding than helping somebody be able to walk again or be able to cross their legs again. There's nothing more exciting than when you work with somebody who's had a stroke to be able to gain their speech back and be able to ambulate, walk, and move their limbs. That's what I really like working with. I'd like to save, the athletes and I like to help them too in the military, of course, but sometimes for athletes, just fine tuning their running or getting them stronger and fitter. And, that's not as inspiring to me as just helping somebody to be alive.
I love that. And so you've seen all these things get better. So why don't we bring on Teresa?
Sure.
And let her tell her little story. So tell us a little bit about how you met Teresa and how did this relationship begin? And then we'll let kind of Teresa tell us, and as Teresa's talking, I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see some before and after.
Yeah, well, Teresa had set up a session with me when I was teaching in Las Vegas. at the Ultimate Weight Loss Conference, and she had set up a session to do a one-on-one. She had heard about me. And it's funny because she told me that she was thinking of canceling coming to the conference and then canceling the session with me, because she's like, well, how can he help me? I've already been to so many different practitioners and so forth, and I'm probably going to hear the same thing. But she said, no, I'm a person of my word, so I have to go to the conference. I've paid for it, and I've already committed to John. So I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah. So, like he said, I had tried all sorts of different things. I wasn't obese as a child, but I became so as an adult, and I've tried everything from Weight Watchers to Fen to Biggest Loser competitions at my gym, and I would have short-term successes, but they would always be followed by these monumental backslides, which would have a really huge hit on my self-esteem and how I felt about myself. And I spent a lot of time being really self-conscious. I was tired all the time. My health was not great. I had high blood pressure. I was depressed. I had a lot of fear. And I didn't have a very high sense of purpose, sort of like I've described there on that slide that you're showing. And I showed up to that first meeting with John sort of with a chip on my shoulder.
A big one.
I really didn't think he was going to tell me anything that I hadn't already heard before. And, you know, even the things that I had heard before, he was able to tell them, help me see them in a different light, and which helped. And so over the course of working with him, I have lost around 135 pounds the last time that I weighed. I don't weigh very often.
Yeah, I never talk about weight loss with clients, and I definitely never want my clients weighing themselves, but
yeah,
they still like to.
But it's been so much more than that. We've focused a lot on my mental state, just, you know, keeping a positive attitude and not kind of going down these rabbit holes when I get focused on something. I've recently found out that I am not going to have a job in a few weeks, and normally that would have sent me in this spiral and out into a bag of Oreos. And but he's helped me build a toolbox that has helped me not only with my weight and with my health, but all these other things that were impacting it. So one of my big things that I had issues with was because of all those former times that I tried to get healthy or lose weight and had been successful and then had a huge backslide. I had a lot of negative tapes running in my head. And so we've been able to stop that quite a bit. He's helped me learn how to use vision boards that have kind of helped me get out of my head and remember what I need to be focused on. Other tools that he's given me have been things like a really good morning routine, a really good evening routine, the use of like green powders if I'm having a really big craving, a couple of other supplement type things. Beet Boost has helped with my blood pressure. And one of the best things that he helped me with, and I can give you an example of this, is kind of getting a quick win when I feel like things are a little out of control. So I bought his package where I get a text him every day, which has been a huge, huge help. But I remember one night I texted that I'd done good with food, but that I hadn't got enough movement in. And he said, quick, go do 5 push-ups off the counter. And so I did. And then he said, see, you're successful. You did what, you did some movement. And so that taught me that when I kind of feel like I'm not doing great or not quite where I want to be, I just need to take some action, any action, and that helps.
Well, and also it's important to have that integrity. If you tell me or you tell yourself you're going to do something, you have to do it. Because if you don't, it's just like if you tell me you're going to call me, I'll call you right back in 5 minutes, and you don't call me, you've trained yourself that when you say something, oh, it's not going to happen because you don't do it. And then you've taught me that if you say something, I'm not going to believe it. So one of the things I work with so much with clients is integrity. Having that integrity of your thoughts, your words, your deeds, everything. to have that. That's so important in our society today because so many people have lost integrity. So it's one thing I really work with Teresa a lot on is if she says something and you commit to it, you're gonna do it.
Well, and I think that's a big thing for somebody that has struggled with their self-esteem or feel like they focus on one area of their life. Like I used to say, and I know this is not pretty, but I used to say I'm so fat, I'm so whatever, that it didn't matter if I kept my word to myself. I would go out of my way to keep my word to other people, but I was not very good about keeping my word to myself. And that's one of the ways that he actually got me when I said, okay, I'll buy a package, whatever. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna want you to text me every night and tell me how you're doing. You won't do it. And I was like, oh, like hell, I won't do it. So that is one thing. I think I maybe missed like 2 nights because I fell asleep before I had texted him. But even when I haven't wanted to text him because I haven't been having a great day or I haven't kept my word to myself, I still do it because I told him I would do it. So.
And you know, that's a very important component. You know, I have clients that are therapists, of course. So whether it doesn't matter if it's a psychologist or marriage and family counselor, it doesn't matter, but they come to me and one of the things that I say to them, I said, look, I understand in your profession, you can't do this because you have boundaries and things, but I can do it. And I need you to stay more in constant contact with me. I said, when you see your clients and say, Mrs. Jones, your 50 minutes are up, we'll see you next week. My concern is that's a red flag because what's going to happen those next 6-7 days? There's no connection. And so people need to have that connection. I need to know what she's eating. I want to see a food diary. I want to hear about her movements. I want to see what her day is like. I want her to help be connected to me. I mean, that's one of the things that we've lost in society is connection with one another.
And one of the big things that has been the most uncomfortable for me with coaching with John is for quite a while, he's had me tell him how I'm feeling, which I'm not good at expressing how I'm feeling. And I, you know, especially when I'm not feeling great, I think in my life, I've always seen that as a sign of weakness. And I don't want to share those things with people. And so that's been a really hard one, but actually something that's been really good is to get me to the point where I'm actually feeling my feelings and expressing my feelings instead of stuffing them down with food or laying on the couch for 3 days in a row or whatever.
And again, that's the whole concept of being in touch, not only with other people, but first and foremost, being in touch with yourself. You know, that's one of the things that we've lost in society, not only emotionally and spiritually, but we also have lost it physically. You know, this term proprioception, kind of knowing where you are in space. And that's why like being on an exercise ball and things like that, that stimulates your proprioception because you're constantly monitoring and you're evaluating where you are in space here so you don't fall off. And so I bring that same concept with clients is it's important to communicate. So many of the people that I've worked with abused women for 30 years. So when I not only did this first lecture in high school, but right after that, I started working in women and children shelters volunteering. And then I started developing different clients that had terrible abuse. And so many of them, most of them were women, but so many of these women have bottled up their feelings. And they've been taught to be almost in a subservient position and to push all their own desires down and to serve other people. And that's one thing that we don't do when you work with me, because we're here to serve you first and foremost, and then you can serve your family and friends, but you need to take care of yourself also. And that's, if you don't do that, that's a prejudice. It's like loving dogs but not liking cats. You know, you're a species now because you can love other people, but you can't love yourself. You're just as important as anyone else on this planet. You're not more important. You're not less important. You're equal. And that's one of the whole premises of what I've been trying to share with people forever, is that we're all equal. The term ahimsa is compassion and reverence for all beings. So I choose to see all beings, all expressions of life as equal. There's no hierarchy, nobody's better or worse.
Yes, and I can attest to that because when we did our conference last September, there was a spider and I was like, JP, come get the spider. And he literally took it in a little cup and put it out. So I was like, that's good. I'm glad I have JP around. But I agree 100%. So first of all, Emma says, love your shirt, Teresa.
Oh, thank you.
It is very cool. And we have some questions. So you guys up for some questions now?
Sure.
All right, so everyone, if you guys have questions, we're going to be taking on all these questions, and you please type them in the Q&A box, and it's super helpful for me because I've got about 3 different screens I'm trying to monitor, and that would be really good. So Matt's asked, what are the best recovery foods after a workout?
The best recovery foods?
After a workout.
Oh, okay. Well, it depends what what your workout was, but I'm assuming it'd say be an aggressive workout. So one of the most important things is to replenish. Most people don't talk about it enough is water, hydration. You know, when your blood is healthy, it's about 92% water. As you start getting hypovolemic, you start losing water, your blood thickens, and instead of looking like grape juice, it looks like molasses. And so then you don't deliver oxygen to your tissues, but you also don't remove waste products away efficiently. So one of the best things that you can do is hydrate. Now, one of the things that I use and Teresa uses is Beet Boost, and this is basically 40 tart cherries and 4 beets per tablespoon. And it's a vasodilator, so it opens up blood vessels and allows the oxygen to go more efficiently and remove waste products. So you could also eat beets, juice beets, anything with nitrates. You could eat green leafy vegetables. So basically, I want people to hydrate right away, get some carbohydrates in so your body can basically turn that into glycogen, the storage form of sugar for tomorrow's workout, and then get some amino acids, some good protein, the building blocks of basically your tissue. So normally what I recommend is legumes, so beans, peas, and lentils. Any beans, peas, or lentils, it doesn't matter. And I like sweet potatoes, so that's a great carbohydrate. And then I like some sort of like hummus. I make a lot of hummus, so that's a great combination. And then some salad and some vegetables. You know, things that can replace your sodium naturally, like celery or tomato or chard or some sort of vegetable. And basically make sure you're hydrated. And then one of the things that we talked about at our retreat in Chicago is we talked about recovery methods physically. So foam rolling, stretching, cooling down, doing massage, things like that. Those are all really important for recovery.
Absolutely. So Lynn says, I've known JP for some time. Staying motivated during this time can be a struggle. Do you have ideas to stay directed?
Yes, and that's very, very important, especially at this time when people are suffering and there's a lot of trauma going on. And unfortunately, a lot of the trauma it's not intentional, but it's self-induced because we turn on the TV or we read the newspaper or magazines that are negative. So one of the things I would recommend is trying to do a media fast, trying to stay away from media. Believe me, your family and friends will tell you if there's any major thing going on, but staying away from programming your brain with that negativity. Because, you know, once you start hitting cortisol levels high and you start changing your hormones, those things are caustic to your immune system. So they bring your immune system down. They've done studies on actors when they'll take a group of actors and we ask them to pretend that they're happy. And then we have another group, we ask them to pretend that they're sad. Now they tested their immune system before this, and then they'll test it after. And they find the group who pretended to be sad and depressed, their immune system wasn't functioning as well as the group who pretended to be happy. So we know that your thoughts and your emotions they're eavesdropping on your cells and what you're feeling. So you have to be very conscientious of what you're around. So staying away from the media is important. And then it's very important that you stay still connected, not only to yourself through exercise, stretching, meditation, but then be connected with other people. Zoom, like we're doing here, this is a way to connect. FaceTime, calling people, anything like that where you can stay connected. If you're able to go for walks with people, if you have face masks or whatever your state allows, that's important too. I see Teresa just about every day.
Yes, but you guys live like 600 feet apart.
Yeah.
All right, and I only live 20 minutes away, but I still haven't seen you in a bit. So hopefully when this lifts, we can come see each other. So, all right, we got some really good questions coming, by the way. So Chris asks, how do you know what size exercise ball one should have for sitting?
Oh,
should your legs be at 90 degrees angle?
Yeah, so it's just like sitting in a chair, and generally they're like 55 centimeters, 65 and 75. So they have a chart on the ball, and 75 is mainly for basketball players, huge people. 55, I'm about 5'5", so 55 is a little bit short for me, so I go with the 65. The other thing you can do is you can blow up the ball more, or you can reduce some of the air in there to accommodate you. But generally you want it so you're just sitting in a chair. It's not gonna hurt you if it's too deep, it just may not be comfortable. But you don't want it so big also because it's easy to fall off. Now, the more air you put in the ball, the more unstable the ball will be. So if you don't have good balance, you might want to deflate that ball a little bit so the surface is flatter, so it allows you to grip a little bit better and you won't fall off as easy. But being on the ball throughout the day is great. You don't have to be on it all day, but if you just sit on it and you're bouncing a little bit and maybe you do some hip rotations and things like that, it's a great thing for your spine and to keep you mobile instead of just being stagnant in a chair. Because remember, most of your immune system, your immune system is your lymphatic system, and most of those lymph nodes are in your groin region and your chest region. So anytime you can do a movement like this, where you're moving your feet up and down in your arms, you're pumping that lymph fluid through the lymph nodes, and that's important.
Absolutely. That's a great, I've used the exercise ball when I was in the military, even 10 years ago, bouncing on things. I still use it. And I bought this walking treadmill that's under my desk that I'm sitting on right now. Well, not on it, but on a chair, but on it because of GP. So
yeah, that's a great one. That's just, I let Teresa borrow my treadmill. It's called a Rebel desk. So they have a desk and a treadmill, and it goes from a half a mile an hour to 2 miles an hour. So it's really nice. It's like Dr. Greger, you always see him walking. You don't necessarily have to be walking fast, but just that you're ambulating, working your gait, you're just moving. That's what's important.
Absolutely. So another question was where this is on Facebook. Unfortunately, Zoom is not stream living, or it's not streaming to Facebook for some reason. So I apologize. So, but it was supposed to be on the Healthy Human Revolution, but we are recording this and it will be rebroadcast as a replay. So please let people know about that. Also, we have a question here from Gary. What's the best way to start working out after a double hernia?
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, obviously consult your physician and see what they recommend, but obviously very, very gently, even if you can just do mobility work where you're just trying to raise your arms up over your head, you're just trying to do stretching and maybe some foam rolling, some very gentle, easy walking. It really depends on what the restrictions that your physician, he or she has given you, but obviously super gentle. But one thing that we need to remember is even though we need strength training, we need endurance training, we need to work on flexibility. You know, we need that mobility because it's easy as you get older to start stiffening up. You know, we go into that sarcopenia where you're losing muscle. We go into often osteopenia, the beginning stages of osteoporosis, because we're not getting bone stimulation. So we need to work strength. We need to not only get our muscles stronger, but we need to do something for our bones if we could get some impact, like walking or gently jumping. One of the videos that I did for Dr. Marbus's website is on basically building bone density in the lower body, and it's using half a jump rope. So what I've done is I just take a regular jump rope like this, and I just cut it in half here, and I split it. And then all of a sudden now you can jump rope and still get all the bone stimulation you need and develop coordination and skill, but you don't get your feet caught. So you do want to have some stimulation with impact. So don't be afraid of it unless your physician, he or she has told you not to.
So when what JP's talking about is he created some special videos, and we're going to talk about those at the end here. But JP, that was the very first video I ever saw of you on Ellen Degeneres before we met. And I was going to a gym and I was like, watch this video of this guy. He cut this in half, but I don't have to really jump. And she goes, no. But I love that. It's because I've used this with my own patients, and many things that I tell my patients, I have had I'm using JP's advice. Like, it's great. So very, very helpful.
It's your body doesn't care if I'm lifting a 50-pound weight and I'm getting resistance, or if I'm using an exercise band and I'm getting resistance. Your body doesn't care where the resistance comes from. I mean, think about it. Do you think your body, your muscle knows if you're lifting lead, steel, gold, water, beans? It doesn't know. And it's the same thing when you're jumping rope. Your body doesn't care if the jump rope is cut in half. What it cares about is you're getting this footwork patterns down and you're training your reflexes and you're getting impact. And why would you use a regular jump rope if you're going to have to spend 20 to 30 minutes constantly getting your foot caught and you don't get a workout? It makes no sense.
Exactly. And look what I have by my working desk because of JP. Literally, I have resistance. And what do I do in my visits? Because plant-based telehealth is, we just launched a plant-based doc telemedicine for the whole country. And I show these to my patients. Like, by the way, my friend JP got me on these. So yes, JP.
I want to mention, Lori, it's important that people know that you do telemedicine and you have some of the top doctors in the world on your team. So if anybody wants to have their own plant-based physician that are highly trained, you definitely want to check out your site. What is that site again?
It's plantbasedtelehealth.com. So I'll put a link on the end, but this is, you guys are very sweet. But anyway, I just want to show that JP literally has not only affected my life, but I'm sharing this now with my own patients. So thank you. I appreciate all the amazing advice. We have so many more questions. Okay. Off keto. Yay, Susan. I am pre-diabetic and insulin resistant. Need to lose 25 pounds, age 65. Should I limit whole grains and fruit?
Well, it depends on what you mean by limit. I mean, I think fruits are one of the most important antioxidants, especially for diabetics. The blueberries are so important. Just adding blueberries to almost anything is going to reduce the sugar right there. You know, it's these different types of pectins and fibers that we have when they kind of chelate or grab onto sugars and slow them from going into your bloodstream too fast. But I don't recommend, of course, eliminating berries at all. And I recommend to all my clients, unless they're allergic, to be eating berries. And fruits are one of our best sources of vitamin C, since we're going to be eating them fresh, where vegetables are a good source of vitamin C. But when you start cooking them, vitamin C heats out, it's sensitive to heat. So you lose it. So I like people to get fruit in their diet as much as possible. And grains, I think, are one of our best sources of fiber, and they're timed released carbohydrates. So it's like putting a log on a fire. It's slowly releasing carbohydrates slowly. But I think, Dr. Marvis, you'd be best equipped to answer that. What you're
Yeah, for sure. So this is definitely up my field. I get a lot of mastering diabetes patients. A lot of their clients come and see me. And the beauty of diabetes is that it is reversible in many cases for type 2, and you can really learn to control your blood sugars very well with lower insulin if you're type 1. You should not avoid fruits and grains, but what I would do, if you're noting that if you're just a pre-diabetic, I would include those foods and enjoy them. If you're worried about if you're still having some spikes in your blood sugar, I would avoid maybe dried fruits. And you definitely want to maybe shoot for lower glycemic foods. And by the way, Dr. David Jenkins, who actually created the glycemic index, is vegan. So there you go. So he is, I think he was convinced of being a plant-based before he even invented that, but just to show you that the person who invented, but they always tout the low glycemic index and all these keto diets and stuff, he's actually vegan. So, and I've interviewed him, by the way. So the key thing here is just maybe focus on lower glycemic fruits and veggies and whole grains, and that will help a little bit until your body becomes more and more insulin sensitive, and you can start adding back more of those a little bit higher glycemic foods if the end product is the sugars that you're worried about. So, but don't avoid them. They're very good for you. But yes, but if you have more questions and need more help, plant-based telehealth. All right, so Shada, who we all know, how do I help someone who's having severe anxiety during this trying time? That's a really good question.
Yeah, well, one of the most important things, as you know, that I've talked about from day one is using essential oils. So I think when you go to livingwithharmony.org and you click on the doTERRA, they have two incredible oils. One is Serenity and one is Lavenders. That almost immediately helps right off the bat. But number two is if you can share with your friend or family to do nasal breathing, slow diaphragmatic breathing. So you're doing belly breathing through your nose and back out through your nose. That's very important because chest breathing is really when you start getting your sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight activated. If you look at people who are traumatized, they're heavy chest breathers. And that's the worst thing you can do because that's instigating the fight or flight. When you're doing slow nasal breathing from the belly, that's that parasympathetic nervous system that's inducing relaxation in you. So changing your breathing, using an essential oil is important, and making sure that you're able to talk about your feelings and express your feelings. When I still have a lot of clients who are men, and they're not very good at expressing their feelings. So many times I'll ask them if they could journal or if they could write their feelings down. But you don't want to be having these feelings bottled up. You also want to do something that it helps to eliminate some of that emotional stress and make you feel good, which is just very simple. It's called exercise. So getting outside, going for a walk, getting on a bicycle, swimming, anything where you can do some sort of aerobic activity. And better is if you can be outside with fresh air, and even better is if you get exposure from the sun. Those will help right off the bat.
Fantastic. And that deep breathing is really, really essential, right? Because it's that constricted breathing, you makes more anxiety. You're not, when you breathe too, it's that vagus nerve stimulation. It's really good. And I've learned a lot about breathing from JP. Oh my goodness. So hi, JP, Linda says, you rock. Even though I'm a personal trainer and aerobics instructor, I've learned so many new concepts from your great instruction. So excellent. And Robin asks, self-motivation to get into a workout routine at home. Since the gyms are closed, I get stuck on what to actually do. I have an exercise band, but the weights I have are too light now for most exercises I would do at the gym.
Okay, so well, I don't know your strength level and I don't know what exercises you do, but one of the things that I do is obviously I use exercise bands all the time. And there's different, variations. So this company, TheraBand, makes the CLX, which is one of my favorites because it has handles built in here. So everywhere there's handles throughout this whole thing. So of course I can double it up. Let's say, for instance, you're good at push-ups and once you get to about 10, after that, you're starting to build endurance. All I'll do is take the band and put it behind my client, and then I'll have them do push-ups either off the counter this way or on the ground. So I'm adding more resistance with this. The other thing I'll have a client do, or if you're at home and you only have a certain amount of weights, is I'll have them hold their 10-pound weight, and then I'll have them step on a band at the same time. So now they're curling 10 pounds with the resistance of the band. So that's another way you can do it. Now, Dr. Marvis wanted me to create some exercise videos for her site. So we do have one that's just all on exercise bands and how to use them. And we have one on the footwork and the jump rope, and they have one on coordination, balance, and skill. The reason why I created those is because so many people get bored and they want variety. So I'd say looking at different exercise videos and getting some different ideas, and also maybe doing Zoom with your friends where you're doing an exercise class together. The other thing is you can sneak movement in throughout the day. One of the things I have Teresa do is I have her create these note cards, and then she keeps them around the house. So when she goes in the kitchen, it says push-ups. So every time she goes in the kitchen, she does 10 push-ups off the counter. If she goes to use the restroom, it says squats. So when she's done using the restroom, it says 10 squats. So at the end of the day, you sneak movement in. You don't necessarily have to be doing it all at once. My concern is when I work with a client who says, hey, I do my hour workout in the morning, I say, well, that's incredible, amazing, but what do you do the rest of the 23 hours? I'd rather have you moving throughout the day a little bit than getting your hour done in the morning, checking it off, and then sitting on a couch or in a chair all day. So you want to keep moving throughout the day. I'm not a big fan of traditional workouts. I like people to have movement and things that are fun. I don't get a kick out of just going to a gym or running, for a half hour. That to me just isn't fun. If it's fun for you, go right ahead and do it. But I'd rather do things that are games and are fun. I like to do gardening. I like to do walks and bicycling where I'm seeing things, hiking, things like that. Those things are fun. And then, of course, I'm going to do those with other people. I'm not doing those alone.
Absolutely. But I just have to make this really dumb joke that gives you a new meaning to the potty squatty.
Okay.
All right. I know. You guys laugh at home, right? So other thing is all these videos, and if you wanted to have a consultation with JP, remember we're at the end of the seminar or the webinar, we're going to be giving a free 1-hour consultation away to one lucky winner. We'll show how to do that in a second. But all of his videos and to make actual consultation appointment is at healthyhumanrevolution.com. So it's just us, we're doing that for JP because he's such a good friend and has helped so many people. So here, what steps can one take to transition out of a very sedentary lifestyle to becoming fit? Where, how to start? Rena would like to know.
Yes, that's excellent. That's a great thing. And the way you start is very gently and simply. You don't have to rock the boat too much. You just set your goal. Today, every day when you wake up, you want to do 2 or 3 minutes of something. So you'll see in some of these exercises, I do these exercises called the box step to develop balance and coordination. Some of the easy, gentle jump roping. For you, I don't know how fit you are, but even just doing 10 jumping jacks and a couple push-ups off the counter, boom, you checked it off for the day. Boom, you got that one done. Then in the afternoon, you do another 2 or 3 minutes here, boom, you check that off. And then in the evening, you do another round of something, you check it off. You just start very small. There's so many people who have run marathons and ultra marathons, and they could barely run when they first started. They have to start small. So as they say, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So just start really slow and make things attainable for yourself. Don't set some crazy goal that you're going to work out a half hour a day if you never work out at all. With Teresa, I just have her started out with something very small and doable, things that she could do. If I would say, I want you to do a half hour a day, it would beat her self-esteem up because she wouldn't be able to do it. And then what would happen is the tape would play in your brain that says, see, you can't do it. And that's not what we want. We want you to be able to accomplish your goals. So do you have any suggestions?
Just to start small, with the Post-it notes around the house. Initially, I just had the Post-it notes. Now I keep track of how many times I do it and try and beat the day before.
Yeah, I saw yours up on the wall.
Yeah. You know, when I first started, we didn't even really start talking about fitness until, I started meeting with you the end of August. He didn't even give me a workout program to do until January. So it was mainly my friend Kelly would meet me before work and we would go for a walk, and those eventually got to be longer walks, or we would take a break. And instead of just going to get something at the convenience store, we would do a little extra walking. So it just started out really small for me. And, you know, I used to be really athletic, and I think he understood that if he gave me something more to do, I would really try and push to do it. And when I couldn't do it, it would have been a bad mental thing for me. So
yeah, it would affect her self-esteem and just beat her down even more. I'd rather have you have a sense of accomplishment than just getting beaten down. Now, with other athletes who are very competitive, so like Gabe, who's Lori's son, he's an amazing athlete and super competitive, and he's in amazing shape. So when I'm working out with him, then I'm going to push him and I'm going to do an exercise maybe I don't think he can do, so to challenge him. But that's working with athletes. So that, you know, for the average person, that's not what it should be. It should be fun. Now, one of the things that I do is Teresa let us use her backyard. So we have garden boxes. And in order to help the environment, we didn't go get bags of soil because of the plastic. So we actually called up a gardening supply and have them take a dump truck and dump it on Teresa's lawn. And for 2 days, we had to shovel and wheelbarrow everything to create these garden boxes. So that was amazing movement. I mean, that's excellent movement. That was a lot of fun. So just think of ways that you can sneak movement in. I know this sounds funny, but one of the healthiest, most effective exercises in the world is house cleaning. It's amazing what type of workout you can get when you're doing manual work, when you're actually scrubbing and cleaning things. And vacuuming is good. Just think those little bit of lunges in, and just cleaning in general is good. And then gardening is good. And then just go out with your friends when you can and get out there and walk. I mean, the two things you're going to have to do the rest of your life, hopefully, are squat and ambulate or walk. And the way you get better at those things is getting in and out of your chair as much as possible and walking as much as possible. So when you practice it, you get better at it.
Absolutely. So fantastic. And there were some questions. Someone had gone to the Healthy Human Revolution site and can't see the videos. All you have to do is when you're there, just scroll down. There's two little things about our plant Healthy Human Nation and a free course. What I would do is just scroll down. You'll see 4 things, 3 videos, and then the consultations with JP. So that's where you go. Just scroll down, and we'll also show a live page that here in a second.
I want to thank Dr. Marbus, because you really were the one who insisted I do these videos, and not only to help humanity, but you also were trying to help me too, just because you know that I'm not working as much. So I appreciate your kindness there.
Well, JP, I would do anything for you. And my son is the model in his videos, which is even more fun.
He was good, actually. I couldn't get him to fall. I couldn't get him to make mistakes. He was amazing.
It's pretty funny. So anyway, so Mark asked, I'm a client of JP, Mark Hernandez. Can he share how training does not need expensive equipment? We used to train on a hiking trail under the oak trees.
Absolutely, for sure. So again, most of what I use probably is exercise bands. There's pretty much no exercise that you could do at a gym, no machine that I really can't replicate with a band. So it's just the know-how, and that's why Dr. Marvis had me make the exercise band videos, because I was showing you how to do them. So exercise bands, a medicine ball would be really nice, because if you can throw a medicine ball either against the wall or back and forth with your friend, your family member, that would be great. But that develops impact every time it's hitting your hand, and that's what builds bone density. So it's the equivalent if you were walking on your hands. So medicine ball, exercise bands, and then body weight exercises is phenomenal. And then one of the other videos that I did was on coordination and skill development, which is really lacking. And you know what we used? Kleenex, tissue, to show people how to develop and stimulate their reflexes with Kleenex. So yeah, you're right, Mark. You don't really need to do much. I mean, you can do step-ups on a bench, you can walk, you could run. As I said, jumping rope is probably one of the oldest exercises and most efficient exercises in the world. And now we're just doing without officially jumping rope. So yeah, it's you basically don't need to spend much money at all. And Mark, we did the jump roping at your house. We did the step ups. We did band exercises. We did all the body weight stuff. And Mark, he got in phenomenal shape. I mean, it was amazing the shape he got in. So I was really proud to work with you, and he's got a beautiful family.
Fantastic. And Vanessa says, I can't wait for you to come speak at Allura Wellness again. What kind of body work do you do to work with trauma? As a psychotherapist, I see that so much stays in the body even after intensive therapy.
Absolutely. Well, I'm not a therapist, so that's good and bad. It's good because I don't have to follow the same rules that therapists follow. And so I have a different relationship with clients. And as many of you know, I've worked with clients who've had some of the most horrific abuse you could imagine, satanic abuse actually. And one of the things that I worked with that particular client was I was their friend. I mean, I told them, I said, I'm not a therapist because, she was at our office where my business partner is a therapist. And I said, so I don't follow the same rules that they do. So we can go on a picnic. We can go out shopping. We can do whatever. And so I think one of the things is, as you know, Vanessa, two things that are critical is some sort of body work. So massage is critical if a client is open to that. Many people have been traumatized. They can't be touched. So if they can be, that's great. If not, yoga is absolutely critical. So massage and yoga are critical, some sort of somatic things. Getting some sort of exercise in any way you can to release that. I'm going to have Teresa, she'll be embarrassed to say it, but can you tell everybody what's one of the things that I asked you to do in the car?
Oh, I have to vocalize in the car.
So what do you have to do in the car?
Take a big deep breath in and just, for as long as I can.
That's amazing, because when we first started, she said,
you do it on the phone.
No, I'm not even doing it on the phone. She said no.
So.
And so one of the reasons for that is because anytime there's trauma, again, as the book describes, the body keeps the score. These energies are compressed inside the body and they need to come out. And one of the best things you can do is vocalize. 100% of the women that I've ever worked with, 100%, when I've helped them learn cardio kickboxing, 100% of them could never breathe out properly. So when they hit the boxing pad, I'd ask them to blow out and they just couldn't do it. And as time went on and I get them to do these types of exercises and express themselves, not only did it help their boxing and their skill, but it helped them emotionally. So Vanessa, you're a highly trained therapist and you do great stuff. And so I would say, again, focusing on somatics, the yoga, the massage is important, some sort of exercise. And then again, the counseling, getting some sort of counseling or getting some specific therapy. I think it's important that the person goes to a trauma therapist, getting things like EMDR, biofeedback, things like that. Those are all really important things. And the truth of the matter is you have to realize, and it took me a long time really to understand this, is that these people who have had trauma, their brains are getting rewired. So we can't talk to them and we can't work with them on the same way that we would with somebody who hasn't had the trauma because their brain doesn't function the same. It's like me speaking Italian to somebody and they don't understand Italian. It just doesn't compute. So you have to be very slow and gentle and make sure they get therapy. I'm not a therapist. I work with their therapist if I can, and I just try to work around them and just support them and love them.
Absolutely. Perfect. I love that dog. I love that dog. Oh my goodness. All right. So we have a lot of questions. Hi, John. How often in a day and for how much time per session is foam rolling safe and or recommended?
Well, so foam rolling, when in my conference in Chicago, we were so blessed to have Dr. Marvis there and be our amazing physician. One of the things that I said to the audience, and I said this jokingly, so please don't write me letters. I said, I've made many predictions and they've all come true. And I said that one prediction that I've made a long time ago and I'll still hold true is that foam rolling or using a lacrosse ball, some sort of body work is going to be one of the most important things that you can ever do. It's going to be life-saving because again, it helps release energies that are trapped in the body. And I don't mean just physical, but emotional. So I would say it's great to roll in the morning, whether you're using a foam roller or like a massage tool or using a lacrosse ball on the bottom of your foot. you can easily use that in the morning, and then you can do it again in the evening before you go to bed. Those are 2 times that I recommend it. But if somebody has some iliotibial band or some sort of piriformis issue or some sort of whatever issue, talk to your physician or your healthcare practitioner. But many times they'll recommend doing it 3 times a day and focusing on that one specific area. So that is a great question. And it's one thing I use for all my clients is foam rolling, lacrosse balls, and massagers. I actually have, one of my clients got me a massager that's, it's like a pneumatic hammer. So the ball just goes bang, 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 bang. So I can use it on my client. I actually can massage them. And it's a high pressured massager. And it's really great for loosening up tight tissue.
Absolutely. And Alec asks, JP, how important is sleep to keeping healthy?
Alec, you need more sleep no matter what. I know Alec, and he's an amazing guy. He's a wonderful producer. He helped do Unity. So sleep is absolutely critical. I mean, gosh, as you know, Dr. Marbus, we couldn't talk enough about sleep, especially for restoration and recovery and for our energy level to helping us recover. It's so critical. And gosh, we don't get enough sleep. And not only do we not get enough sleep, we don't get enough restful sleep. So I think sleep hygiene is one of the most important things we need to focus on. And just quickly, it's very important that before you go to bed, about an hour before you go to bed, you keep it dark. You want to get your brain, you want melatonin to start being secreted. We kind of have these hormones, the cortisol and melatonin, and cortisol is really secreted when you're healthy in the morning, waking you up with the sun, and then the moon is associated with melatonin to help us relax. And melatonin is also a very potent antioxidant and important hormone for our system. So the more that we can secrete that melatonin within reason, the healthier it is. So getting it dark before you go to bed, making sure your environment is cool is really important. I like people to have their window open if it's safe, so they get fresh air. They're not breathing in stagnant air all day long. And then a couple different things. Make sure before you go to bed, you do some sort of ritual to release that tension, whether it's journaling or saying prayers or meditating. That's really important too. But Alex, you're right. Sleep is something we all need to focus on. And I'll tell you, as an activist myself, the kind of difference between someone who has a type A personality in business that's always striving to get money and be famous and, whatever their job, activists are almost the same thing, but we don't strive for fame or money. We strive to make the world a better place. And all of us who are activists, we also need to focus on sleep too, because it's very easily to be working at 11 or 12 o'clock at night when we should be sleeping. So all of us, we definitely need that sleep. So do your very best to focus on getting sleep. And then also there's nothing wrong with taking a little short nap or relaxation where you put some iPads on and earplugs in, and maybe some lavender or serenity, and just sit in your office for 3 to 5 minutes throughout the day to just kind of shut off your system a little bit and to kind of reset.
Absolutely. I think those are great. And Israel Passwater asked, did you already cover water filter recommendations? He says he's Israel from Clearly Filtered.
Oh, wow. Hi, Israel. He's awesome. So he's an amazing guy, because let me tell you, one of the things I talk about with everyone is water. And their company is Clearly Filtered. And this is the picture that I use. Teresa uses it too. And basically, when you start looking at water and you start thinking that our body is mostly water, well, what's in today's water? So not only do you have a whole host of things, you have actually birth control pill in water, psychiatric medicine, arsenic, mercury, all these toxins that are filling your body up. So one of the things that we use is we use a Clearly Filtered pitcher, and this takes out all those contaminants and even fluoride and everything, chlorine, of course. But the main thing is you start looking at these things like BPA and birth control and psychiatric meds. Those are things that have no business being in the water. So I use the filter, the pitcher, but then I also use the bottle. So when I travel, I definitely take the bottle with me, because every time you go to an airport, why would anyone pay $3 for a plastic and then you're just going to heave that? One of the things that our organization, Living with Harmony, does is we have a bunch of different campaigns: no cruises, no palm oil, no balloons, and no single-use plastics. So this prevents you from having ever to use plastic water bottles. I just basically go through security with it. And then when I get past security, I just go to the water filter, the spigots they have there, and just put it in there. And then I've got my water on the plane. So thanks for being here, Israel. He's got a great company. And if you go to livingwithharmony.org and just click on Clearly Filtered, you can find their stuff there. And Dr. Marbus, I wanted to mention, we don't sell any products at Living with Harmony. Our shop page is just affiliate links, which I never even knew about until, I don't remember, a vendor said to me, hey, you're always promoting these products. How about promoting ours? And we have an affiliate link, which means your sanctuary just gets credit when people buy it. So these are all products that I use. It's no influence from the company. It's just products that I use that the company just gives us credit when you order it. I don't even know what the dollar amount is, but we get some sort of credit for our sanctuary. So
absolutely. And I would say also with the Clearly Filtered, I actually did a mission trip to Uganda about 3 years ago, and we took all Clearly Filtered, and actually when we were done, we used them for the full 2 weeks, and we left them there with the village that we were at. So we saw over 500 patients in 4 days. So they were very thankful for those products. So that was pretty cool. Let's see here. We've got so many questions. If you want to strength train and bulk up, what kind of supplements would you recommend? Chad asks.
Chad, okay. Well, first of all, remember that you can be strong and not large. Hypertrophy, that muscle growing larger. Lots of bodybuilders look giant, but when you compare them to many strength athletes or power lifters, they're not very big. Part of strength has to do with neurological firing. It has to do with technique. It has to do with muscle insertion, your genetics. So if somebody wants hypertrophy muscle size, I just want you to know it doesn't necessarily equate with strength. But generally just eating a pure plant-based diet, the only difference I'd say is that I might be a little bit different than some of the other instructors out there, where I do think that as you get older, you don't necessarily break apart food as well. You don't chew as well. Your digestive enzymes aren't as well as they could be. And so I do recommend eating a little bit more amino acids from your food. So just more legumes, more beans, peas, and lentils. For some of my clients that I've worked with, if you've seen the movie or the documentary Earthlings, Sean Munson, who did it, he came to me 165 pounds and like 6'3", and I built him up to 215 pounds of solid muscle. And that's all on a plant-based diet. He became exceptionally strong. He started out only bench pressing 35 pounds in each hand, and I had to stop him at 105 in each hand. So on a pure plant-based diet, he got exceptionally strong, and hypertrophy, his size was big. He even said to me, he goes, JP, I just have to learn how to reuse my body, because he felt like Frankenstein. I always called him the vegan Frankenstein because he became so big. So as long as you're eating plant-based foods, you'll be fine. The difference is some people get anorexic. They lose their appetite when they exercise too hard and they don't want to eat. In those cases, then I have them use a plant-based, like a protein. I'll have them use a shake or a smoothie mix.
So Emma was asking, can you share the name of the documentary? It's Earthlings, Sean Munson. And if you want to check out the Healthy Human Revolution podcast, I actually interviewed him, and we talk about JP and him transferring him into a vegan Frankenstein. So that's pretty fun.
Amazing. And also Alec, who asked the question, I think earlier on sleep, he was also the producer with Unity, which is the follow-up to Earthlings.
Awesome. And Israel also wanted me just to mention that they give 50% to JP and Living with Harmony with every purchase.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So,
yeah. I knew we got something, but thank you. And that's an amazing company. What a great family there. And they've helped the Living with Harmony and helped us a long time in terms of when we go to conference and providing things that we can give products away. So thank you guys for that. And that's what I use. I use their products. Anything that's on the site is something that I use. I don't just, a company could call me and say, hey, we'll give you commission. I've had companies said they'll give me commission to promote their product. I said, no, your product's junk. I'd never use that.
If there's anything that anyone should know about JP, it's integrity. And let me tell you, I would not be sharing my Saturday morning with someone who I did not believe in and fully trust. So yeah, I'll just say that. And all my family, my 3 kids and my husband adore you. So I don't know what else I could say there. All right. So Nina asked, hi, John, I'm wondering how much vitamin D we should take a day, especially living in the gloomy Chicago climate, your hometown. At some point, I'll have my level checked. Right now, I take 2,000 IUs per day.
Yeah, well, I'll let Dr. Marvis handle that. But normally for my claims, I'm recommending 2 to 1,000 international units of vegan D3, which is vegan, but it has to say vegan on there. It'll say maybe from light chain. They can expose mushrooms to ultraviolet light and create, vitamin D2. Most D is not vegan, but I do recommend everyone gets, if you talk to your physician, to get sun. And I believe Dr. Greger's recommendations might be around that. Dr. Marvis, I'll let you.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, testing is optimal, but I understand at this quarantine time. So anywhere between 800 and 2,000 units is the majority of my patients are typically on 2,000. And I will say I lived in sunny Florida, and was running with, sleeveless shirts and shorts on, and I was still low. So if that doesn't help, and I'm light skinned, so I should make it even easier than someone who's more dark complected.
All right. One other quick thing.
Yeah.
I know who Nina is. She's a great lady. Make sure you're using essential oils too, because vitamin D is important not only for your bones, but there's vitamin D receptors in your brain. It's important for mild to moderate depression. So to help your moods, make sure you're using essential oils too. And if people can't afford essential oils, just go get a lemon. What I used to do in the retirement home is I would tell all the seniors, when you go to the buffet, take a piece of lemon and save it, wrap it up in tissue, and then in the afternoon, take that little piece of lemon, squeeze it away from your face because the little essential oils come out. You don't want them in your mucous membranes, and just sniff it in. So lemon or lime or citrus, grapefruit works great too if you can't afford it. But these oils are not expensive. Like I think the lemon or lime is only $10, and there's like 250 drops. And you don't ever have to use a drop. All you have to do is open up and smell it this way, and the thing should last for, I'm not saying a lifetime, but it should be last a long time.
Okay, perfect. So here's another question. Louise says, hi there. This is a question for you both. How do you politely decline or end conversations with friends and family on Zoom? They can get very intense talking about politics or news.
Politics or news? Well, Lori, Dr. Marbus, I'll let you answer that one. How would you do it? Because
well, honestly, I would just evade and deflect. So this is just going back to my military training, is like evade and deflect. So it's like children, and they start saying things or they're throwing a fit, you ignore them and you politely move on to the next topic. I mean, that's basically what it is. People who cannot have a rational and level-headed conversation with you, regardless of any emotionally charged subject, they're not in a place for you to expend your energy. Just, again, ignore it, deflect, and move on. It's like, well, I hear you and I appreciate your opinion, but let's talk about something else, shall we? That's how I do it, as I just don't feel like arguing about that stuff. So
yeah, I mean, it seems that when people talk about politics or things like that, it always seems to get a little hostile. And again, it's at this time, we don't want to be arguing and having heated discussions with people. We want to be connecting with people and loving people and bonding with people the best we can. So one of the things that we talk about, Marina and I, when we wrote Strong, Savvy, Safe, is we talk a lot about not being a doormat for people. And it's very important because, as I said, I've worked with abused women for over 30 years. And so many of these women have been doormats. They've taken abuse, and they're always taking hits from family and friends. And at some point, you have to put your foot up, or your arms up, and say, no, stop. I don't want to be treated like this. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want you to use those words around me. Because one of the things that I've always shared with people is sticks and stones can break your bones, but words can tear your heart apart. So be very conscientious of the words that you take in from other people, because this is a fertile garden up here, and whatever you plant in your brain starts to grow. So be cautious about what you allow others to plant in your brain.
That's a beautiful sentiment. You have to be careful what you allow in social media, people who are speaking to you, your own thoughts, all this in, garbage out. So it's food, thoughts, emotions, very, very important. Matt asks, how do you help people overcome food addiction?
Well, that's great. I mean, that's one of my favorite things to work on. And we obviously, do you want to mention a little bit, a few pointers or how we worked emotionally?
Well, yeah, just being in touch with my own emotions has been a huge help. What you eat makes a huge difference too. Making sure that I stay away from things that are triggers for me. Because I have certain foods that are triggers, and especially I go to them when I get emotionally set off. So
yeah. I mean, I think it's nothing I could just give you right now. I mean, it's the work you do one-on-one, but I would say the core of everything is going to be self-love again, and not hurting yourself, because people who love themselves don't hurt themselves.
And I think, especially as somebody who's entrenched in that, you don't think about, I'm eating this, I'm drinking 4 44-ounce Diet Cokes a day because I don't like myself. You don't think about this as a sign of that I'm not taking care of myself. You're just thinking, you know, that's going to give me a little boost for a little while. That's, you know, this is how I'm going to get through the next little bit, and it's not that bad. But when you actually start to realize that, you know, the food that you're putting into your body and the things that you're listening to and how you're allowing other people to speak to you, that those are all signs that you don't care for yourself. That really helps change the story. So.
Yeah, and it's an education, because a lot of people don't know that. You know, they need to understand that, you know, the soda pop that you're drinking, you know, gallons a day is damaging your system. It's hurting yourself. And it's also, when people eat to so-called fill their void, they're not getting in touch with, it's almost like a part of them, a self, isn't allowed to express themselves and allowed to come out and talk. And it's like you need to have that to a certain degree. So
well, and I would have argued with him when he first started telling me, you know, people who love themselves don't hurt themselves. I love myself. I don't have an issue with not liking myself, but it was very apparent. I mean, I was walking around in a 360-pound body. You can't get to that size if you love yourself, if you take care of yourself.
Yeah. So I think, yeah.
Go ahead, JP.
I was just saying that all this stuff comes down to, again, the core of everything I teach is ahimsa, compassion and reverence for all beings, meaning you too. So it's about being loving and kind to yourself. If your child was allergic to peanuts, you wouldn't be packing them a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You wouldn't allow them to go to a birthday party where they're serving peanut butter cake, because you know your child could go into anaphylactic shock. So it's like, because you love your child, you'll throw a birthday party at your house instead and make everything peanut free. You go out of your way because you love your child. It's the same thing for yourself. You need to go the extra steps to do what's necessary to give you love and kindness. And I'm not saying that's easy, especially if you've been raised from a young child that you're not worthy. That's why it's this whole relearning process that we have to go through, because these poor children that are traumatized from childhood and now they're 15 and 16 and they're causing problems in society, really, should we be blaming them? I mean, is it really their fault that they were raised by people that were causing them damage and programming them? It's not the child's fault. We need to be compassionate to them.
Absolutely.
Well,
Go ahead.
I said, I never had issues like this when I was at home. My problems came later in life when I started to allow things like work and overwork and relationships that I was in affect how I felt about myself. So there's lots of different ways to become traumatized and learn to not love yourself.
Yeah. And the antidote is always 100%. It's always love and compassion. You're never going to get enough love. You're never going to be kind enough. You know, in this book, The Pillars of Health, it's the last 2 chapters that I'm the most concerned with, because one is called the universal antidote, which is love and compassion. It's the antidote to all life's problems. And that's why we need to be focusing on it so much. So many people who buy that book, I say, look, don't worry about any of the book. Just read the last 2 chapters first.
That was my first assignment.
Yeah, just read that, because that's the most important thing. The only reason I the way this book came about is I was training Ellen Degeneres, and she said to me one day, we're working out, she goes, somebody's going to ask you to write a book. And I was like, what? I said, Ellen, you're stalling, 10 more push-ups, And then all of a sudden my phone rings. So her and her staff kind of made it so I could get this book out there. And I would have been happy just to do the whole book on love and compassion, but the publishers wanted it on all these different aspects I teach. So I'm glad to have included plant-based nutrition and exercise and cognitive enhancement in there, but it's the love and compassion that is the most important.
Absolutely. And when you are working out with JP, he will tell you, what? You're stalling. 10 more. I have experiences this personally.
You have to have that combination of love and kind of toughness, so it's a blend. It's kind of like in martial arts when they do a salutation like this. The fist represents kind of the yang energy, the more aggressive energy, and the palm is passiveness. And when you're bowing, it's a blending of both these energies. So it's like you can't just be passive, and you also can't just be violent,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Yin and yang. So Guy asks, what steps do you recommend to people to grow in self-love, compassion, and kindness to yourself if you're very hard on yourself as far as your internal dialogue? Thank you.
Oh yeah. Well, Guy, hello. I know who he is. He's awesome, and his wife is awesome too. Again, it's just gentleness. It's just starting slow. It's reading positive things. It's using the Post-it notes. It's, if you look over everywhere in Teresa's house is what?
Vision boards.
Vision boards. Everywhere you go, you can see them on the fridge, they're up on the wall, everywhere, because those energies permeate inside of you. Eventually, it just takes time. You know, I had a client once that had a handicap placard on their car. And I said, why do you have that? And they said, well, my doctor gave it to them. And I said, but you're not handicapped. I said, you're really not handicapped. But I said, every time you sit in that car and you start that car, you see it subliminally, you're thinking you're handicapped and you're not. I said, I don't ever want to see that again. And she took it off and never needed it again because she didn't need it. But that's a form of visualization. It's a form of an affirmation. So you have to start, Guy, as we've talked about before, just start very gently in making sure that you're listening to positive things, you're around positive people, you're not around negative things. See, like with Teresa, it really only just takes a look, a raise of an eyebrow, or somebody to say something where she could go back into all the old tapes that were playing a long time ago. And once that tape gets in, it starts playing and she literally changes. She snaps back to who she used to be, which is not what we want. So now when somebody raises an eyebrow or has a snarl or something negative against her, she has this almost like a shield up where it's like, oh, I hear what you're saying, but that's not going to work.
Even just sitting here, like looking at myself on the camera, that would have been devastating before I started working with him. But now I've had a couple of moments where I've looked up and thought, oh, but I've been able to get myself out of it. So.
Yeah, and that's critical because that's enough to distract you from getting that tape and putting the negative tape in. And that's the same thing when you're working with clients, especially young kids who are depressed and suicidal. It only takes one switch to get flipped and all of a sudden they are doing something bad to themselves. So we have to do everything to stack the deck, Guy, in your favor. It's like, as I've explained before, it's like being the 98-pound weakling on a football team. When the football team goes in because practice is over, you don't get to go in. Why? Because you're the 98-pound weakling, so you have to work that much harder.
Well, and so the after photo that you showed of me that had the words in the middle, I initially, the first time I did that, it was very uncomfortable making one of those. I do them about weekly now. And actually being able to see the change in my appearance and then to think about the other things that have changed, making those little pictorial things has helped me a lot because it helps me to see that I'm a visual person. And so while it was uncomfortable at first and sharing them was very uncomfortable, that's been a really good tool for me. And so I think if you can take something that you're struggling with and find a way to really feel the emotion behind it and have it be something that you can see often and remind yourself about is useful.
And vision boards, I don't know if you guys know the story. Now, Dr. Marvis, don't get upset because Dr. Marvis is always trying to help me because she says I'm not a good business person or good with finances. But when I first did this book, I was offered $100,000 to do this book, $100,000, which is more money than I'll ever see. And I turned it down, okay? And the reason I turned it down is because the publisher wanted to change the book and they wanted to take out some things in the book. And two of the things they wanted to take out, one was essential oils, and the other was vision boards. And I said, absolutely not. I went with a different publisher. I don't know what we got, but I remember we got barely anything. And I remember talking to Marina, who helped me write it, my assistant, and like, I don't care. I'm not putting information out there that's not mine. Vision boards or collages are one of the most important tools that I use with 100% of my clients. And I've been using them for, for 30 years maybe. So vision boards are critical, and I recommend them to everyone. All my clients have them, or Post-it notes, whatever they start out. But that's so important because it's the way to help counter all the vision boards that you're getting, because everything that you're seeing today, every ad, every commercial, every music, every sound, all the gangster rap, that's all programming. That's a vision board. Everything that you see is a vision board. So the only way you can counter that negativity is by putting up positive vision boards. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's fabulous advice. You're literally just reintroducing visually so your eye sees it and then it goes into the mind and saying, oh yeah, that's what I need to focus on today. So I think that's absolutely 100%. I've used very similar things with my own patients. For example, someone who maybe was struggling with eating a whole food plant-based diet and they're diabetic, I said, okay, I need you to walk around with a syringe, not with a needle on it. And remember, that is your goal. You are tired of, injecting insulin as a type 2 diabetic. The more I can have you focus on, this is what I'm avoiding, push that away. And then the other thing is start thinking about all this beautiful and positive and hopeful future that you have. So 100% agree on that. And those who say you shouldn't have that in there, you definitely should go find another publisher. But yes, JP, that's why we're doing this.
And when he says board, one of the big things for me when I'm depressed is my house is not clean. And so keeping my physical environment tidy is a huge, both a sign that I'm kind of getting off track if it gets bad, but it's a good thing for me to have like a clean environment. It really helps keep my mood up.
Absolutely. Organize your external to help organize the internal. First thing you can do in the morning, get up, make your bed.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the things we talked about at my retreat in Chicago.
Yep.
The thing you do is make your bed because it's a check for the day. So immediately, no matter what, you did something positive. So you got momentum created. The worst thing you can do when you wake up is to go on the news and read the news. So here's a quick vision board that Teresa has with all her different stuff on there. So it's a giant one. And maybe hold it closer so they could see.
Can you just point out the different elements of it, Teresa?
So this one, my goal was to do some Tabatas a couple of times a week. And so I just made this one. I can do anything for 20 seconds. I am strong, I am focused, I can. And then just had the days of the week in green that I was gonna work on it. So that's been helpful. Here's my, how many times I've done push-ups off the counter thing. And this is just about being loving and kind. So.
Yeah, so these are things she sees every day, and this is just one of them. She has them all around the house. And what I recommend is when you make a vision board, if you're a client of mine, we'll focus on that. There's certain ones we want. But one of the things I recommend is you take a photo of your vision board, and then every time you go out to eat, if you're going out to eat or you're going somewhere where you could be tempted, you just put it and you take a look at it and say, oh, wow, now I know what I need to focus on. I want to remember that. And, Teresa has that stuff on her phone too. So. Yeah,
I have a whole folder in my my photos. It's just vision boards.
Perfect. You guys are got it down. So again, if you guys want, at the end of this, we're giving a 1-hour consultation away for free if you stick around. And we have about 11 more questions here, and then we'll roll this into that. And then remember, it's healthyhumanrevolution.com where you can sign up for the videos and also the 2 packages you have for the consultations with JP. Mark asked, and there's a couple questions about pantry foods, so we're going to kind of combine these. Okay. So JP came to my house, Mark says. Sounds like you worked a lot with Mark and outside under oak trees and now in the house. JP came to my house and helped my family go through our pantry. Can he tell us about what things should be eliminated from our pantries and what food and products should be added? And then the other question regarding the pantry was, do you have a grocery list to stock a survival pantry?
Oh, wow. Great questions. That's excellent. Well, that's a lot. Basically, the one thing that should be out of your pantry for sure, and I'm sure Dr. Barbas would agree, would be all oils. So get rid of oils as fast as you can. I don't care if they're extra virgin and blessed by monks. There's no real place for oils other than to fix a squeaky door or your bike chain. But we don't really need oils. So avoid that, and avoid things that have any sort of additives. Like I try, even if I buy beans, sometimes they'll be on sale if I want to have some canned beans. I try to buy unsalted, but if not, I'll rinse them. So I try to rinse out the salt. But it should just basically say beans, organic beans, and then it might say sea salt, but I rinse them out. In my pantry is basically beans and lentils. I prefer to buy most of my beans in bulk, so I don't have to have a can, and I don't have to have a bag. Where they're that way. I'd rather go and buy 25 pounds of beans and we can share them. You can share them with friends and family. So you save on packaging, because part of what living with Harmony is to avoid packaging as much as possible, buy in bulk. Or I can go and bring my own bag, my mesh bag, and just fill your own container with beans that way. So generally in the pantry, it's mainly beans and lentils are the 2 most common things. I do use nuts and seeds, but I keep those in the refrigerator or freezer. So I keep my flaxseed in the refrigerator or freezer. And by the way, when you get flaxseed, buy it whole, grind it in your blender, then put it in your refrigerator, freezer. Don't buy flaxseed that's ground already because it's going to get rancid. But mainly the stuff in the pantry is just beans, peas, or beans and lentils. I don't really have, I don't have canned fruit or canned vegetables or anything. But one thing that I do use a lot, I don't necessarily, it's for emergencies, but I do eat it too, is this company called Backpackers Pantry. So they make, this is like an organic blueberry, walnut, and oats, and it's a breakfast cereal. And then they make a bunch of vegan, like Catman curry, and they make a pad thai. And these are great, as you were mentioning, for emergencies, Mark, because all you have to do is tear these open, take out the oxygen absorber, add hot water, seal it for 15 minutes, and you've got literally a gourmet meal. I've served these before to people at conferences, and they thought we made these in the kitchen, and they didn't realize they came out of a pack. So, obviously with this pandemic, maybe a month or so ago, I was talking, before the quarantine took place, I told people, I said, make sure you have a couple weeks of food at home. And just in case there's a quarantine, make sure, you have these things. And sure enough, the quarantine came. But yeah, something like this. But oats, you can also just buy at the store. You can buy oats and just keep them. But I like things that are like this because these are basically archival, even though they have a 7-year shelf life since they're vegan. As long as light or oxygen isn't in here, they're basically archival. They're going to last forever. So basically most of my food is all in the refrigerator. So it's fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, beans, peas, and lentils, of course. And I make a lot of hummus. I do make a lot of hummus. And I eat potatoes sometimes, but they're usually sweet potatoes I like, or squash. And then I use regular potatoes, a couple times throughout the year. And then I eat Colorado grown quinoa. I don't get the quinoa that's from the Andes, which is an environmental issue, reason I don't. And then I eat sometimes oats, and I don't eat a ton of grains, but I eat some. And what is unusual in your pantry? Or
no, mostly beans and lentils and oats and mustard.
Same. We have beans and rice and oatmeal.
Yeah.
That's a lot of everything. So Alec also mentioned Sean is listening on the conference line, JP.
Hey, Sean's there. Hi, Sean. He's got a great family. What a great activist he's. That movie Earthlings, that documentary, has changed so many people's lives still to this day. And if you go to Nation Earth, it's nationearth.org or .com, you can watch Earthlings for free. And then you can also watch Unity, which is also on Netflix. And those are two of the best motivational movies. And, Sean has done so much incredible work as an activist. And he really proved that when he was like 40, that he could revamp his body. And he did it all by himself with hard work and a plant-based diet. And same thing with Alec, who's the producer on Unity. Same thing. These are guys that became vegan and became exceptionally fit. Same with Mark Hernandez there too. So you definitely can do it. You definitely can do it. And if you're not following a plant-based diet now, don't fret. Just start adding more plant-based foods into your diet. I never focus with clients on taking things out of their diet. I just keep adding good in, because the more good you put in, the less bad you'll tolerate. And so just keep putting lots of good in, and eventually you won't be attracted to negative stuff anymore. It's like people. The more good people you put in, you're not attracted to being around that person that's always, talking trash and talking bad about people and doing maybe not such ethical things. You're not attracted to that energy anymore. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't love and care for them, because most likely that person had challenges. We should give them love and give them a book or a video to try to inspire them too. But it doesn't mean that we should subject ourselves to that trauma, especially if you've already had trauma. You don't want any more trauma.
All right, excellent. And so we have a few questions we're going to combine here as well. Meredith asked, what about frozen vegetables? Is that okay if we cannot get organic? And then also, can you describe what SOS free means?
Oh, sure. So when she said frozen vegetables, if we can't get organic, well, you can definitely get organic frozen. But the whole thing, remember, with organic is this. Just think of suicide, homicide, genocide. They all mean death, and pesticides is right there. So whenever you can get organic, not only for yourself, but get it for the planet and all the workers, so they don't have to be exposed to those chemicals. Most of the people who have some of the highest rates of disease in the world are farm workers that are spraying pesticides. So frozen vegetables are completely fine, especially when they flash freeze them in the fields. They're fine. I personally try to buy from farmers markets as much as possible. Even though I do have some frozen, the main reason I don't want to do frozen is just because they're in plastic. And I still get them sometimes, but I really try to get as much fresh as possible. I go to the farmers markets because I want to support these small farmers, especially when they're organic. And I'll buy blueberries 20, 30 pounds at a time. And I won't buy blueberries from vendors who have them in the plastic containers, only if they have the compostable ones. And then I bring my own containers there and I just dump it in there and give them the compostable ones back. But yeah, frozen is fine. And for people on a fixed budget, you can even go to the dollar store. They have frozen berries. They're not organic, but they're still frozen. And they have frozen vegetables. And they also have organic soy milk at the dollar store too.
I really like that. And on our Healthy Human Revolution YouTube page, I actually made a whole video, 2 videos, a series on one, how to eat healthy on a budget, but also to feed a family of 4 under $10 a day. So guys should check it out.
To answer the other question on SOS, SOS is salt, oil, and sugar free. And so that's a very important component of what I teach. The oil is very important to get rid of oil. The salt, everyone's different. Athletes, though, when I work with athletes, I'm not as concerned because they're sweat, especially if they're endurance athletes. And then the sugar, I don't see any reason really to have sugar because like I'll use, if I need something sweet, of course I just use fruit. But if I want something off the chart sweet, then I just use dried fruit. So I'll use raisins or dates or apricots. And one of the things you can do is, what I'll do is I'll take dried fruit like apricots and I'll put them in a cup and I'll fill that cup with water and I'll let it sit for 10 or 12 hours. And then I just put my hand over the apricots and I pour out that syrup, because now that's apricot syrup that I can sweeten my oatmeal with. I could put it in if you drink tea or coffee, or if you're baking, you can do it with dates because you can create like a date syrup too. So really no reason to have regular sugar. Oil is the one that I would think you'd probably agree, Dr. Marvis, that oil is the one we really should be concerned about.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely try to avoid the salt, oil, and sugar, 100%. Nina asked, it's kind of a follow-up question, which would kind of go along, but shows, besides vitamin D, what are some good anti-inflammatory foods to include in my diet? But vitamin D, of course, is a supplement. But.
Oh, sure. Well, all the berries are critical. Those anthocyanins, there's components in there that are so anti-inflammatory. Things, different spices like garlic, oregano, and thyme are really good anti-inflammatories. I really like, the beet boost is to me one of the best things because again, you're getting 40 tart cherries, which are mainly used for anti-inflammatory, and then 4 beets per tablespoon. And so I use this predominantly, like when Teresa originally had high blood pressure, this is what I was using for her. Hibiscus tea is another good one too. With this one, remember, just go to beetboost.com and you can use my code JP16, and then you get free shipping and a discount too. 15%. Yeah, 15% off. But any berries are good. The turmeric is great. Dr. Marvis uses a turmeric complex, I believe, that maybe you want to mention that.
Yeah. So I use turmeric, excuse me, turmeric complex. You get it off Amazon, and it has turmeric root, ginger, and black pepper. And I've had really good success with patients. It's only $15 for a full month's worth, but maybe you can see that turmeric complex from Amazon. It's in Amazon Essentials. And then there's another vegan company that I use for just a regular multivitamin is Complement Plus. And I know everybody, again, another Boulderite, who's their CEO. And, yeah. But you can go to lovecomplement.com and order that. So I ordered that for all my family.
I use that too.
Yeah, Teresa uses it, and we have it on the webpage. If they're livingwithharmony.org, click on shop, we have it there. But remember, Dina, that one of the main things is when everyone starts talking about taking anti-inflammatory supplements and herbs, that's great. But you want to get to the cause of the issue is why is there inflammation? And most of the inflammation in a vegan diet, not talking lifestyle, but I'm talking about just your diet, comes from oils. Those are going to be pro-inflammatory, especially those omega-6s that are very commonly found in packaged products. When you get the hydrogenated oils or the cottonseed, canola, any of those oils are going to be pro-inflammatory. It's the fruits and vegetables that are going to be anti-inflammatory.
Perfect. And Alex says he's been healthier since I met JP at 40 than when I was 20.
Yeah, Alex is great, co-producer of Earth Things. Unity.
All right, so we got a few other questions here. I'm going to combine these two. How quickly will flaxseed go bad if bought ground and stored in the fridge? And then are store-bought dried herbs nutritionally valuable at all? Do they need to be fresh for value?
Well, first of all, you don't want to buy the flaxseed ground. Again, just buy, it's cheaper and more environmentally friendly to just go bring your own bag at the store and then or scoop it in and just buy a pound or 2 at a time. And what I do, well, what you could do is you could just blend it every time you want to use it. Or what I do is I'll just blend a pound or so of it. I keep it in my freezer. And then I just take a little bit if I'm making a smoothie or if you ate oatmeal or whatever. That's a good way to do it. I kind of rotate my seeds. I use flaxseed and I use chia seeds and I use hemp seeds. And I don't eat a ton of seeds, but I do eat some seeds. So I do rotate it, but I keep them all refrigerated or frozen. Yeah.
And then what about fresh herbs versus dried herbs? Do you
Well,
feel
all
like that
fresh is always going to be best, no doubt about it. Just not practical for most people. So most of the herbs that I use are dried herbs, and then I also use essential oils. So like I'll use the oil of oregano is so potent from this company doTERRA that you literally will just stick a toothpick in there and then stir your vegan chili or your vegan soup with it. That's how potent it is. One drop of their peppermint, I think, is like 20 cups of peppermint tea. It's very potent. So antioxidant wise, there's probably nothing better for you than spices in terms of antioxidants. They're the highest. Essential oils would be higher, but that's just because they're concentrated.
Perfect. And then we've got a few workout ones. Vanessa says, I do long warm-ups before lifting or pole dancing due to having been injured in the past. But if I want to do these quick sessions with bands, I want a quicker warm-up. What do you recommend? So maybe they should check out your band video.
Yeah, the band videos. But you do, as you get older, and Vanessa, you look really young, even though I know you've got to be, I don't know, 40 or something. But as you get older, that blood circulation, especially the tendons, isn't as good as it used to be. So warming up is critical. I'd rather have people take more time to warm up than work out. In other words, I'd rather cut your workout short and not your warm up, because once you get hurt, then you can't do anything. And so it's really critical to get that warm up in, especially when you're doing shoulder stuff, because we're not used to putting our arms over our head. And then all of a sudden you start doing military presses. You really got to warm that up. Now you can passively warm up by wearing a sweatshirt and getting warm. That helps too, but then you still want to do some sort of warm up. So we show some basic warm ups in the videos for sure.
Perfect. And then what weight for a medicine ball should I get?
Well, that depends on everybody's strength level, who you're using it with, and what exercises you're doing. But I'd say for you, Vanessa, probably about anywhere between an 8 or 9 pounds should be good.
Excellent. And then Mark says, please thank JP for me. He changed my and my family's lives. We also support animal rights through the Gentle Barn, and I just bought some essential oils online.
Nice. Awesome.
All right. And he says, Alec and I are on the board of Gentle Barn.
Yeah.
Okay. And now let's see here. Do you guys have any tips for living with family members during this time who have opposing views? I'm living with my mom and have been more open with the things I'm learning about animal farming industry and the health effects of meat and dairy consumption. But every time I try to share and educate her, she dismisses all the truth and research I've been doing. It has led to very emotional conversations between us, and I feel hopeless interacting with someone who isn't willing to learn about the truth and attacks my reasons for having a plant-based diet.
Well, interesting enough, my background really is in geriatrics. Everyone associates me with just fitness. That's a tiny portion. Geriatrics is far bigger. And the one thing I will say this is that as people get older, the binders here just get tighter and tighter and tighter, and you're not willing to be open. It's a hallmark sign of premature aging when you're not willing to be open and learn. It's not their fault, but they're just set in their ways, and they got to be 80, and they say, hey, I got to be 80 eating this way and living this way, so I must have done something right. So it's really generally best to, what I encourage people to do is, if you're making meals for loved ones, always try to include extra vegetables, extra fruits, extra healthy foods. It's not worth, from a health standpoint, getting that senior upset and having their blood pressure go up, or them getting a risk of having a stroke, or in their later years. Why should they get upset? You just do the very best you can to be loving and kind, and you try to gently educate them, and you try to kind of sneak into their diet or their lifestyle healthier foods. But it's also not really our right to impose on people that don't want to change. If people want to continue to do wrong in the world, I mean, what can we do? I mean, it's frustrating. I'm an activist, and I have been for 38 years. And of course it's frustrating. I work to help end sex trafficking and animal abuse and all this stuff that happens with seniors in terms of that elder abuse. It's frustrating to me when I see all that stuff take place, but what else can you do? you just do the best that you can. Dr. Marbus, I don't know if you have something you want to comment on that.
Yeah, so I think one is, look at the outcome of what you've been doing. So that's not working. So this is where you have to see where the emotional levers are with your patient or people. So I think of these as patients, or family members. For me, I was very fortunate. I was a mom of 3 teenagers, and my husband, when I brought the plant-based diet home 12 years ago or 8 years ago in 2012, and he was just happy. My husband was like, if you keep cooking, that's fine. He's like, I don't eat anything. My children knew better than to fight too much because I was shorter. I was not a shorter cook. You'll eat what I cook. But now you're the daughter or the son in your mom's house. I don't know the age of your mom. My kids are in their 20s. So, they could be in their 40s or 50s. So they're not necessarily elderly. So I think where is their sticking point or where is their pain point? And maybe you can figure out how a whole food plant-based diet could help them with that. And I wouldn't say, oh, this diet could help with that. I would just show examples. So maybe, I read this really cool story on Forks Over Knives about this person who had diabetes and they reversed it. Or, oh, I was listening to this podcast and, this, rich wool guy, he was like, 40 and thought he was having a heart attack. And then he becomes this amazing ultra runner. And it's, so these type of positive stories might actually intrigue someone. And I hear more people being inspired by stories than anything else. And I don't think you can go to someone and, say, look, you're harming animals. And I trust me, I support that and agree with that. But people are going to just shut down immediately because they become defensive. So what you have to do is like, what positive can they get out of it? And they will warm into the ethical side of veganism. And so at least that's been my experience over the years.
Yeah, it's hard when people get older, they depending on their age, but they get stubborn and they can get a little on the ornery side. So, there's no sense of getting them upset. You just do the best to keep yourself balanced and poised.
And make the most delicious food they've ever consumed.
Well,
that's it.
I have a tip on that too, is make food that's just really good, but don't compare it to what they're used to. Mm-hmm. I have a friend that she's like, if you just wouldn't call that macaroni and cheese, I might have liked it, but I had this expectation that it was going to taste like what I know as macaroni and cheese. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't. It's like macaroni with a yummy sauce on it. So I think a lot of times the way we present things makes a huge difference. There was one casserole I made for my dad who is a big meat eater, and I thought, oh, he's not going to like this, and he went back for more and more, but I didn't compare it to, I didn't try and replicate something that he was used to having. I just said, oh, look at this yummy, casserole that I made. And so.
That's an excellent point, because I have patients who really struggle to stick to that, like, but I'm missing this or I'm missing that. And I said, that's because you're trying to replace the foods. So now instead of replacing the foods, let's focus on the amazing, delicious and nutrient dense foods that you're consuming and leave those foods there. Those are their own foods. You're not going to replace chicken. You're not going to replace beef. What you got to focus on is these delicious foods that you're having. And that's where I think some people struggle. So that's another way, but that's a really valid point. But let's get on to the last 2 questions, and then we're going to pick our 1-hour free consultation. Do you worry about plastic in the water filter container?
In the water filter container, what do they make? Oh, no, that filter actually takes out BPA, but maybe Israel, who owns the company, he can answer questions on there. But what I do is I've gone to the thrift store and I bought glass lemonade containers. And so what I can do is I just can put my filter right in there, and then I filter it right into the glass bottle, and then I can store it that way. So you could do that too. But we go through it pretty fast. But this company is pretty much on the ball. They've done their research, and the reason why they don't sell a glass container, because I've asked before, is because obviously it'd be too costly for you as the consumer or any of us. And it's the risk of it getting broken when they ship.
Shipping, absolutely. That's very true. Yeah, we have these double glass that we love to drink because it holds the condensation. But we've had a couple that we've ordered and they come broken. So that's the charge. So absolutely. But I like the idea you said you went and got a secondhand or, glass container, or even like those mason jars, and put the water in there.
And one thing I mentioned just quickly is that, living with Harmony, one of the things that we do is we shop on Craigslist and Nextdoor, So we try to get things people are giving away free or they're selling them. We want to support that. We try never to buy anything new if we can help it. So we, like most of my clothes, I try to get at thrift stores or people give me. I try to get everything where it's already out in the environment, so we don't have to stress the environment anymore, right?
Absolutely. Perfect.
No one goes to the thrift store more than JP.
Yeah, I mean, I have, you know, all these animals that require all sorts of toys and bowls and things like that, and collars and stuff. So I'd rather get it where people are, because the money then goes to the Humane Society when I shop at Humane Society thrift store.
Right, absolutely. And Boulder has a really nice Humane Society, and like I mean, that's where we got our dog Daisy. It's like walking into a 4-star hotel. It's like, wow, I could stay here.
Well, I learned about this next door, which I never knew about. Craigslist I knew about, but it's so great because people will leave stuff out at their back door. Even plants, we got like strawberry plants and things. People will leave those, so you don't have to go buy them. And it's just a beautiful thing with the community. And when we had to dump the dirt dumped at Teresa's, we didn't have a wheelbarrow. And one of the neighbors I was talking to, and I said, by the way, do you happen to have a wheelbarrow? And they said, sure. And I said, this is so beautiful that our people are helping one another. I mean, why does everybody have to have a lawnmower and a wheelbarrow on the block? Wouldn't it be nice if people could share their tools and share things?
Right, absolutely, absolutely. And there's also Let Go, I think, is another app, or the Facebook Marketplace is local. Yeah, there's lots of places. And then the last question, how should someone who is hypothyroid get enough without too much iodine?
Oh, well, I'll let you answer that, Dr. Marvis.
Sure. So basically, I've been hypothyroid for 24 years since the birth of my second child. And basically, because I don't eat, you know, other things that have salt and other things in them, you can use a little bit of iodized salt if you don't have a high blood pressure issue. You can use kelp or something. But honestly, I'm not a huge fan of the taste. So it's not something I'm going to be consuming daily. So that's why I use the Complement Plus. It has just the amount that you need to avoid the problems with taking too much or too little. So that is my suggestion there, is the Complement Plus. So, all right, guys. So those who are still here, and thank you so much for being patient in here. And what I would like to do is I would like to see who would like to do the 1-hour consultation with JP. I want you to type in the chat box exactly why you should be picked for the 1-hour consultation, and we're going to pick from there. So I'm going to give that to you and give you a few minutes. While that's occurring, I'm actually going to share my screen on how you guys can get the videos, because I think that's really important that we can support JP in all of his work. And I'm going to bring this up here. Sorry, I have to switch things around. I'm running this by myself here, so there we go. And I'm going to bring this down here. Hold on, you guys disappeared. There you are. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. And I'll show you exactly where to go. Thank you for being patient. Here we go. So you'll see here, this is the healthyhumanrevolution.com website. When you land here, you'll see these top ones. And if you want to see the podcast, which I did also, I've done with Sean, and you know, talking about his becoming vegan Frankenstein. And I've also interviewed JP a couple of times, and also Emily Deschanel. That was a really awesome interview. So thank you, JP, for setting that up. And you click on podcasts and other things. So then here, though, you'll see a 7-day free course if you have family that needs free course, but on how to switch to a whole food plant-based diet. Here they are. It says education and courses. So we have the 3 videos. That's my son, who's the model for JP, and JP's been kind enough to keep an eye on him while he's in college. And then here we have the 1-hour consultation in the 3-month package. So please check those out. And if you have any questions, let me know. But you can also go to email info at healthyhumanrevolution.com, and we'd be happy to help you with that. So
Thank you for setting it up, Dr. Marvis, because I know you always say that I'm not a business person and I need to get this information out there and, you know, earn a living. So I appreciate you taking action and being in charge of that. So thank you.
Absolutely. So what I'm going to do, JP, I'm going to have you and Teresa think about, we've got several new messages here. All right. So I'm going to take the last one that was just entered at 11:48, and we're going to go through it. I'm not going to tell you who these are through the chat. And I want you guys to discuss and think who would be the most valuable one. Okay. All right.
Well,
Here
what
we
is
go.
it for now?
This is for your free 1 hour consultation.
I'll decide on this.
Yep.
I want to say, I want to make sure everybody knows they're valuable. So
They're all valuable,
all valuable.
but we get the one. But I'm hoping that this will really show the value that people are seeing in your services, a wide variety of things. So here we go.
have to just pick like the eeny, meeny, miny, mo, possibly, because I don't want to be judging anyone's.
All right, fine. All right. So how about you guys pick a number? I'm going to count from the bottom and the top, and then we'll do it that way if you want to, if you choose to. There's some really good ones. Hold on. Let me see here.
Everybody's valuable. So Dr. Marvis wanted to give one away. So
And if you don't win, it's worth a purchase. You're worth.
It is worth it. You're worth the purchase. Absolutely. I'm just trying to count how many we have so I can have you guys guess a number.
And also remember that most of the money that I get ends up just turning around going into our organization.
Yeah, actually, yes, it does. And I can attest to that for sure. All right. So pick 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Or 19.
Number 6 is our lucky winner.
Number 6. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Julie Shea.
Oh, wow.
She goes, I'd love, and you're going to love this. She goes, I'd love to give a consult to my mom who is super anxious these days. She had previously met a JP and lost 130 to 108, lost weight, and improved her cholesterol. She is a 76-year-old breast cancer survivor, ovarian cancer survivor. So I think it's a beautiful way to do that. So number 6 it is.
Amazing activist. She does so much good for the communities where she lives and all the kids she helps out. So congratulations.
Fantastic. So Julie, if you'll just, do you know how to get hold of Julie? Just can email info@Healthy Human Revolution and we'll get you in touch with JP if you're not already, and we'll get you set up. So thanks everybody for attending. JP, do you have any final, or Teresa have any final goodbyes or says to anybody?
So we're looking at putting together some a Zoom series for JP coming up. We don't have details on that yet. And so just be sure and watch Living with Harmony on both Facebook and Instagram, and we'll put some information up about that.
Yeah, I think that we're going to try to do a talk every week in May. So maybe every Friday or Saturday, so do a Zoom thing that people could sign up for. So we'll just follow that, yeah. And thank you guys for being here. We appreciate you taking the time to come here and share with us, be here. So thank you. I hope this information was helpful. And no matter what you choose to do, I would say try to get some sort of support, whether you're going to a therapist or a rabbi or clergy or talk with a friend. You're not in this alone, and you don't want to try to be in this alone. You want to try to have people around you who can support you and help you, and try to stay connected with resources like this. I think Dr. Marvis has an amazing site, and she's so awesome as a physician too. So if you want to have a physician, go to her. I'm glad to help work with you on coaching, and just get some sort of connection with somebody. And then ultimately the goal is to connect with yourself and realize that you're a valuable human being that deserve love and kindness.
Absolutely. Thank you, JP. And that's, if you're wanting to see a plant-based doctor, I'm not the only doctor, but we did launch the first national plant-based telehealth, and it's called plantbasedtelehealth.com. And I'm on there. We're in 40 states. We're working close to 50. We can also see international patients. So check it out. And JP, thank you from everyone. I have 18 messages, everyone saying, thank you, you're awesome. It's incredible. And again, thank you everyone. And we so appreciate you.
Okay, bye.